Welcome to Adapting Class. For the T's in physiology, there's a way you can master it. This is a comprehensive review to master content related to this area of the exams. The key is you don't need to know details too much, just the big picture. They test big picture. I'm going to give you a very short review but comprehensive on all the system related to anatomy and physiology. You want to stick around and learn this in the very short time, less than 30 minutes. The first system you're supposed to know is what? Integumentary system. This is the skin. It's the largest organ of your body. You can see you look at your body, you're being covered by skin all over. You have to know the layers of the skin. That's number one. They will tell you and ask you which layer and their responsible function. So these are what they test: function, function, function. The top layer of your skin is the epidermis, it's the outermost layer. There is no blood vessel. When you cut yourself, you're not going to bleed until you get deeper. Under the epidermis is the dermis, right? Which is deeper, and it contains the blood vessel, the nerves, and the glands. So your sensation on your skin and feeling and touching, all those things are all from the dermis. The hypodermis is the storage of fat and is for storage. It insulates you. It does not bleed. So these are layers you have to know. So know that. Within the skin, there's sweat glands. There's two types of sweat glands I want you to know. Endocrine sweat glands. These regulate your temperature. Your temperature change up and down is regulated by these endocrine sweat glands. The apocrine sweat glands are different. They are located in the genitalia area or in your armpit. And what does it do? This is what regulates sweat, and it can affect smell in your body. So you watch for that. Apocrine gland are located under your armpit and the genitalium. Your skin, though, it depends on what kind of ethnicity you are. You can have dark skin or not, and these dark skin are due to melanocytes. These are within the skin layers, and they secrete melanin, and that give you the dark skin. They are very protective against ultraviolet light. And so if you don't have a dark skin and you stay under the sun for a long time, you develop skin cancer. These are key areas your board is going to ask you on the teas. So master that. The nerve system is skeletal. What do you have to know? It's a big system, but I'm telling you, you don't need to know everything. Just know that the skeletal system is made up of the bone, right? What does it do? It's going to support your body structure, right? It protects certain organs like your lung is being protected by the rib cage, like your head, your brain is supported by the skull. This is where we make blood in the marrow, blood formation, and it also has a mineral like calcium. Hematopoiesis is basically formation of blood in the bone marrow. The calcium is one of the minerals is stored in the bone. Most calciums are in the bone, and we can release calcium into your blood based on this hormone, what we call parathyroid hormone. It depends on the level of calcium. If calcium is low, you increase PTH to help you increase your calcium level. This can also go to the kidney and help with calcium absorption. Which cells in the bone make bone? The blast, osteoblast, is building bone. Osteoclast, break down the bone. The blast build the bone, and the clast what? Break down the bone. There's different kind of skeletal that you may have to know. Axial skeletals are skeletals that usually form portion of your skull, your spine, and your rib. They are like in the middle. The appendicular are lateral, away from the middle. That's your lump and your pelvis. So these are two types: skeletal, the skull, the spine, and the ribs; appendicular, away, limbs, and the pelvis bone. On the bone, there is muscle. You have to know three types of muscle. First, you have to know whether it's striated. Second, that means it has stripes in it. Second, is it voluntary? Can you control it? And then third, know their function and where it's located. The first one is skeletal muscle. Usually is voluntary. You can move your muscle because you know what you want to do. And it's also striated in a starch to bone. Cardiac muscle, you cannot control your heart to beat or not to beat, right? So it's voluntary, but it's striated muscle and it's in your heart. Smooth muscles, you can control it. Involuntary also, they are fine in vessels or fine in organ, internal walls of the organ, and they are non-striated. So if you master this, you'll be able to know the difference between the three. They have to move, so muscles contract. Sliding filament system are made up of myosin and actin, and it's the myosin and actin that interact to help with contraction. They need calcium and energy, ATP, for contraction. At the neuromuscular junction, that means when the two nerves are talking to each other, they talk to each other using what? Acetylcholine, which is parasympathetic nervous system. No doubt. Two neurons talk to each other at the neuromuscular junction between the neuron and the muscle. And how do they do? They use neurotransmitters. One of them is acetylcholine. In the nervous system, you have to know a few things, right? There's a few things you have to know. The brain, the spinal cord make up the central nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system are the nerves. We have autonomic system, which is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So think about it. In your nervous system, we have central nervous system. That means you include your brain and your spinal cord. The peripheral is the peripheral nervous system, which made up of the nerve. So this is your brain, and this is your spinal cord. This is the central nervous system. And those coming out of it, these are the peripheral nervous system. And out of these, we have what we call autonomic nervous system, which is made up of sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic usually is a fight or flight. When you see something, you're running away. So what it does is it increases everything except your GI tract. So it decreases digestion. So everything decreases when you are sympathetic nervous system. Your GI tract slow down. In the parasympathetic, it makes you rest, but increases your GI tract. So digestion, right, and your heart will go down. A neuron has three parts. So this is the head, and this is where the signal come, and this is where they talk to each other. On top of it, there's myelin. So you have the where it receive information is the dendrite, right, at the end. And then this is the axon where it connects and it sends signals to the tail. And this is the synapse. They connect to each other. These are something we call myelin sheath. You don't need to know details, like I said. Neurotransmitters is how the neurons talk to each other. You have acetylcholine, we have serotonin, and dopamine. So those are the three neurotransmitters you should know. Okay. The next one is the endocrine system. Do you have to know all the um, hormones secreted? Don't worry about it. The hormones secreted travel into the blood, right? They travel into the bloodstream and they do their own thing. It has negative feedback. What does that mean? Every hormones has a negative feedback. That means if the level is too high, the hormone itself will try to shut itself down so that you don't have excessive secretion of insulin if you don't need it. That's all. That's what it means. That's all you need to know. The key hormones you're supposed to know is the pituitary. That's where most of the everything, all the hormones come from. It's called master gland. It control others. The thyroid hormones is involved in secretion of thyroid hormones T3, T4, which help with metabolism. You're able to regulate your temperature and everything because of thyroid hormone. In adrenal gland, we have certain hormones. Cortisol, which is usually it's a steroid that regulates sugars and other things. Epinephrine is when you see a snake and you run away, is that kind of hormone. The pancreas has two major hormones you're supposed to know. The insulin, when your glucose, it helps with decreasing your glucose in your blood. and glucagon help with increasing glucose in your blood. The parathyroid hormone, we saw it, is involved with what? Calcium control. How does the blood flow? The blood flow, easy way is to draw your heart like that. And as you draw your heart, there's four chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, and your lungs sitting here. So blood from your head come from something we call superior vena cava. Blood from your leg will be inferior vena cava. You go to the right atrium, to the right ventricle, and you go to the pulmonary artery. This is all no oxygen, deoxygenated blood. Then your lung had oxygen to it. It come down to the pulmonary vein, to the left atrium, left ventricle, and it's sending to the aorta, and this sending to the rest of the body. And so this is the pathway. In between the left atrium, there's a valve that allow only one directional flow, no backward flow. He has two valves, so is a bicuspid, which is the same thing as mitral valve. Between the right atrium and right ventricle, these are three cups. Is tricuspid. The pulmonary valve, the pulmonary system is this way, and the aortic are here. They prevent directional blood flow. That means allow one blood flow. Remember, arteries usually have oxygen in them, and they carry blood away from the heart, right? And the veins, what do they do? They are deoxygenated and they carry blood to the heart. So deoxygenated to the heart, except the pulmonary, right? Pulmonary vein is bringing blood, and mostly it has oxygenated blood. Capillary are usually between the veins and the arteries, right? And this is where you have gas exchange. There's blood component. Your red cells carry oxygen. Your white cells fight infection, and the platelets help with clotting, all within the plasma. So these are little things I want you to master them as we go. Okay. The respiratory system is gas exchange, and you occur in alveoli, and I will explain it to you. It's the most basic exchange portion. When you take in deep breath, your diaphragm is what contract and it pull everything down and allow air to go in. Then when it creates a negative pressure, and then when you want to get rid of them, you relaxes it and you push everything out. So the lung expand when the diaphragm contract. CO2 is what we exchange. So when we take in oxygen, we get rid of CO2. When there's too much CO2, you have acid. When there's less CO2, you have base. So when you have excessive amount of CO2, we call it what? Respiratory acidosis. Your breathing is controlled in your brain, and the way it's controlled is medulla oblongata. It detects your CO2 level and it can increase your respiratory rate or decrease it. How does air flow from your nose all the way to the alveoli so that it can have exchange? The key word is what? Nose people loves to bake brownie what? Always. So the nose is N, and the people are the pharynx, the lobes are the larynx, the two is the trachea, bake is bronchial, brownie is the bronchiolus, and always is alveolar. The lymphatic usually look like the blood system, but it's not. It takes different fluid leak from the vessel. It take it away into the system and allow you prevent edema and other thing. This is where it drains into lymph nodes. Most of the biggest one that we have is the spleen. The spleen is also a lymphatic system. It filters the blood, it kills cells from it, it destroys any red blood cells that is dead, it destroys it. The main function of our immune system is from the lymphatic itself. The T cells usually are coming from the thymus in your neck, and the B cells are from the bone marrow. The T cells, they fight what we call cell-mediated immunity. So basically, they create There's something different kind of T cells that directly affect the bacteria or whatever we're dealing with. The B cells, you have to make antibodies. When you get exposed, you fight against it and then you develop antibodies to have a memory so that next time you get infection, you can attack it. So there's two types of immunity, the innate and adaptive. The innate is non-specific. It just happens and then you deal with it. The adaptive, that means you have soldiers ready to fight for you when they get infection comes. So adaptive is more specific. We have the ingredient to fight infection, where innate, we have no idea what we're doing. The digestive system, there's few enzymes you're supposed to know. You know your mouth is the main thing. Digestion start in your mouth. Don't forget. And how? Starch. What is the enzyme responsible for? It's amylase. It digests starch into sugar. In your stomach, protein digestion start. That is by pepsin. In the small intestine, you then finish fat digestion, carbohydrate, and protein. What enzyme? Lipase will break down fat. Amylase will continue to break down carbohydrate, and trypsin will break down protein. Your liver make bile, okay, and this bile help with the digestion of what? Fat. You also store glucagon. It's a form of glucose, so that when you need it, you break the glucagon into glucose. Your gallbladder stores bile, so that when you need it, it's made in the liver, store in the gallbladder. When you need it, and you push it into the system so that you can use it. Pancreatic enzyme are very important and they help regulation. At the same time, the pancreas secrete insulin and glucagon, right? The insulin will decrease your glucose, and glucagon increases your glucose. Weather and nutrition, where we absorb it in the small intestine because it has numerous villi, finger-like projection. Water absorption occur in the colon. In your test, they may ask you cause and effect. So what happens if you lose your colon? Pay attention, those kind of questions. You're going to have less water absorption. What happens when you lose your small bowel? You're going to lead to less absorption of nutrients. So cause and effect is some of the questions they may ask you. In the kidney is connected into the your bladder. But how does it do that? It does that by, this is the kidney. The kidney has tubes, something we call ureter, and these connect to the bladder and they come out in the system. So that's how we can figure out about them like that. So you pee them out. The main urine is made inside the kidney itself. So the main urine is made inside the kidney, and this is the nephron. And the nephron is what is made up of the glomerulus, right? Bomo's capsule. Then you have a loop of Allen. You have proximal convoluted tube. Then you have distal convoluted tube and the collecting duct. So that's the functional unit. That's where all the filtration comes before you go to the kidney. There's hormones that regulate the fluid, how much urine you make, how much is your sodium. One is ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. That means if I increase it, I'm not. It's anti-diuretic. Diuretic means you have a lot of urine. Anti is against urine. So when you have too much of it, there's going to be less urine. So it increases water absorption. Aldosterone also regulates your sodium level. So it helps with sodium retention and water formation. These two regulate your blood pressure and your pH and electrolyte. Like I said, I don't have to explain them in detail. Just you know that aldosterone regulates your sodium and your blood pressure, and ADH also regulates your water absorption. You don't have to worry too much about deep content. Otherwise, you're wasting your time because they're not going to ask you that. They're not going to ask you that difficult content. In the reproductive system, know the female hormones. Estrogen is usually secondary sex trait. Basically, you grow your breast, your endometrium, you have menses regulated with that. And progesterone maintain pregnancy. So when you have a baby, progesterone level will go up to prevent you from having menses. Male hormone testosterone is involved in sperm production and your male features, your voice, you grow pubic hair. Fertilization occur in the fallopian tube. What does that mean? So if this is the uterus, we have the fallopian tube with the ovaries here like that. And so fertilization has to occur in this tube before it comes into the uterus. This is why you can have ectopic pregnancy because fertilization occur in the fallopian tube if it does not migrate. When the sperm and the egg mix together, they form something we call zygote. In women, menstruation is usually 28 days, and when do they ovulate? That means when they're ready to have baby, it's 14 days. And this is a comprehensive review of the anatomy and physiology. To adapt and class for more. But this video is all you need for anatomy and physiology. Take care of yourself. Bye.